Well, hello, everyone. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. If you are new to this web series, or maybe you just need a reminder, let me tell you what we're about. So, this is a web series where we like to talk our real talk. We like to talk about things that you only talk about with your friends, or you only talk about with your doctors, or you only talk about with your company at the kitchen table with your family members. We like to take those things that we don't really say out loud, or we tend to say out loud, but in like specific circumstances where we like to take those things and we like to put them out in the open because we here believe that people's life journeys and life stories are educational tools. So, of course, we tend to focus on certain topics. We tend to focus on health, uh, physical health, mental health, education, employment. We've done episodes on financial literacy, divorce. We've done a lot of different topics, and today is no different. So let's get right to it. Did I introduce myself? My name is Gabrielle. I'm so sorry. All right, so let's get right to it. I have a guest with me who is going to help me out today. But before I get to my guest, I'm going to talk about the topic of this episode. So, the topic of this episode is Living with a Disability Part 9. So obviously there's parts 1 through 8, right? If you search our video library, depending on where you're watching this episode right now, you will see those prior episodes. We like to repeat topics here because we believe that there is multiple perspectives to the same topic. So we want you to look at different points of view for the same thing. So, yes, we will repeat topics here on this web series. So, let's get right to it. So, I have a guest who is going to sit on the hot seat. She's going to put her life story out there and she's going to face the fire. And I look forward to bringing her onto the stage. Her name is Helen Ryan, and I can't wait to have her talk to you guys and talk about her life story. And I can't wait to grill her as well. So let's get right to it. So, who is Helen Ryan? Let me tell you who she is. She actually has a brief bio, which is interesting. So, Helen Ryan runs a digital marketing agency in California. She is the creator of the Coached Walk podcast, Walking and Talking with Helen, and the author of 3 books. She loves chocolate, travel, and cats. Plain and simple, straight to the point. All right, so let's get right to it. I'm going to bring Helen to the stage.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. So I'm going to have you, talk about, talk about your disability, living with a disability, your struggles, or whatever you want to put out there, and the disability of discussion, which I should say, let me see if I still have this banner, is I don't have the banner. Oh, okay. But of course, the disability of discussion is going to be about ADHD, which is a famous acronym for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So, all right. So I am done talking. So I'm gonna pass the baton to you, and I'm gonna have you share your experience.
Thank you. Well, my name is Helen, and I actually was recently diagnosed with ADHD. You would think that I would have been diagnosed earlier, but alas, I was not. When I was younger, I really struggled in school. I had a hard time focusing. I was daydreaming all the time because school was really boring. And I would just sit there. And it didn't help that I didn't have glasses. And I sat in the back of the classroom and I didn't know that you were supposed to be able to see the whiteboard or the chalkboard and the teacher. So I would just, couldn't see and I was bored. And so I would just like daydream. I didn't realize that that was not normal. And most of my life, I've had problem with focus. I can focus a little bit, but then I've got to, oh, look over there and look over there. And there's a cat and there's Facebook. Now, social media is really distracting. So I had a really hard time in school. I've had hard time with work and trying to complete projects. I would start a project, and if it was a long project, I would get bored, and then I would just go off to something else. And so finally, was a few years ago, my son went to speak to someone about potentially having ADHD, and he was answering all the questions, and I was sitting there with him, and I was answering the questions in my head, and I at the end, I found out that the answers that I answered yes to actually are not typical. They are for ADHD, and I thought, maybe that's what I've been having my whole life. Maybe I have ADHD, and I did a little more research on it and found out that in fact, most likely I did, but then I didn't do anything about it because, what am I going to do? So I just use the tools that I use to continue and try to forge forward despite having ADHD. And so one thing that I learned a few years ago, actually it was more like 10 years ago, was to use a pomodoro timer because it really helps you focus. Right now, you set it for 25 minutes. What happens is that those of us with ADHD, we get distracted. So if you're forced to focus on something for 25 minutes, you find yourself, "Oh, I'm gonna go to Facebook. No, I'm not gonna go to Facebook because I have to work during this time period." And then you really realize how often you start to drift away from different, like you drift off here, you drift off there, and then you realize how unfocused you are. So the Pomodoro timer really helps. Another thing that actually really helped for me, believe it or not, is that, up until the pandemic, I was teaching spin. And when you're teaching spin in, like, a dark room and you're focused and you're stuck on the bike, you really are forced to focus for that hour because you have people who are expecting you to, interact with them and make sure they're still alive. So that actually taught me how to focus a little better, and I can use those same skills outside of my life. For a long time, I knew I was smart. I just didn't know why I couldn't be successful, why I couldn't get ahead, and why it would take me so long to get things done. And when I started using the Pomodoro timer, that's when I saw because I'm always fragmented. I'm always doing something else because there's something shiny and there's something different and new around the corner. Now that I'm older, I kind of feel like ADHD is my superpower because I learn really fast. I'm interested in a lot of things. And as I told my son, who was also finally diagnosed with ADHD, is that if we would have done something different in the past, our lives would not be where they are now. And I might not even have had him. So, that is what it is. And I just learned to live with it. I did wanna go to medical school when I was younger, and of course, the studying would not have worked for me because I just didn't have the ability to focus on things that weren't interesting, and biochemistry, not very interesting. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm learning and using tools to try to improve my focus, improve my life, and just move forward, and it actually is working now, so I'm really glad that I have that diagnosis because it was a bit of a struggle. I've always wanted to, learn and constantly be stimulated and have my brain constantly stimulated, and that is life with ADHD, and you're doing things that will, help increase your dopamine levels because then you feel better and you feel more energetic and you feel happier, so you're always doing things that are constantly going to feed and increase that dopamine level. So it is a little challenging, but once you know, then you can work with it, and then you can, deal with it and you can make changes because there are things that we can do to help ourselves and be more successful and be more focused. Because that is the hard part is trying to move forward in life with, without knowing what you have is very difficult. I also have an autoimmune disorder, so that explained my fatigue. I was so tired for many years, and so that once I found that out, same thing with the ADHD, I was able to then, "Okay, so this is what's happening. This is what I have, and let's see what we can do to work around that." Because we have to do the best we can with what we have. And there are other tools that also help. For me, meditation helps focus and calm me and teach me how to be in the moment and without constantly striving for that new input, the changes, just that different stimulation. That helps a lot. And I also use ADHD focus music if I really have to focus or if it's a project that I that I don't wanna do, because those of us, if you know, with ADHD, we don't wanna do things we don't wanna do, and we like taxes, forget taxes, we're gonna run that extension to October 15th. So, focus music, you just put your earphones on and you just it really helps you focus because 'cause you're not hearing, you're not listening to the world around you and see what's going on, because that's far more interesting than the project that you don't wanna do. So there are a lot of different things that you can do to help improve your life and help move forward and be more successful and not let ADHD stress you out or not let other disabilities stress you out. As long as we have the knowledge and we have the tools, then we can move forward without, without the stress of like, "Oh my god, I can't do this. I'm dumb. I'm unfocused." And once you get the answer, then you realize that you are smart. You just wanna learn new things. Your brain just wants stimulation. And so that was my little journey with ADHD, and it was, uh, it was interesting. I know it's challenging as well, I know females, girls, women tend to not be diagnosed as much because we present differently. We are often not hyperactive, but we are inattentive. So if you notice yourself or you have a child who is like inattentive and just not focusing on what's going on, there's a good chance that you might want to get that diagnosed because that could potentially be ADHD because we women are not quite as hyper. So it's a little bit harder and not as common to diagnose. When I was in school, there was no diagnosis. There was no ADD or ADHD. At least where I grew up in Norway. Nobody knew what that was, and I was just being lazy from what my grandmother told me. And it doesn't help children when you just say they're being lazy. And the same thing was with my son. He really, really struggled in school, and I would get mad, like, "You gotta do your homework. You're not doing your schoolwork." And it was really hard on both of us. I wish in some ways that he would have been diagnosed earlier because then he would have had an easier time in school and he would have been able to finish college because it is really hard when you see your child struggling and you don't know why and you think just like people thought I was lazy, I thought he was lazy. So that is a little bit of a challenge because there's no real visible sign that says, "Hello, I have ADHD." We don't have a little name tag on us. But at least now people are more used to it and they can diagnose earlier in school. In the workforce, it is harder because you're expected to to do a good job. You're expected to get the projects done with a certain length of time, no matter how boring it is. And you need to show up and work and get your paycheck. And that, so it is challenging, especially for women who are underdiagnosed. We're able to be successful to a point, but we could be so much more if we had the proper diagnosis and the proper tools. Then we at least know what we can do to make life easier for us. I have a friend who we actually believe she has ADHD, but she's doing okay, but she feels like she needs, to have a proper diagnosis, but yet she hasn't been out to get one yet. So it is challenging because she feels like, "Well, I'm doing okay. Do I really need a diagnosis?" But I think it might help. You don't have to be on medication. There are tools that you can use, but like the pomodoro timer and the focus music. But the number one thing that you need to do is just be aware and knowing that there might be an issue, and then how you can work around that to help make your life a little easier. And of course, life around the people around you's life's easier too, because then they know, why are you all over the board? Well, that's why, because I have ADHD. A little quick drink here. Excuse me. Sorry. It's one of those days where I had something yummy for lunch. So when you are when you're growing up and you're really trying to to champion yourself and get through school and even get through sports, I think it's really important if you have kids who are struggling, it's really important to kind of talk to them and give them some tools. If you give them the tools that, how to set the timer, not be on the phone. The phone is the number one distraction. It's very difficult for us with ADHD when we have phones available because there's always going to be something going on there, and we always want to see what other shiny objects are over there. And for kids, I think when they're working on homework, especially, it's good to take the phone away and have them focus on the study music with their computer, because that way they're not going to be distracted. It's so easy to be distracted, and young people multitask a lot, but we really don't get things done when we're multitasking. I am a queen. I am the queen of multitasking because it stimulates my brain. We're always looking for that stimulation, and we hyper focus on things we really like. Kids hyper focus on video games. I hyper focus on, if I'm involved in one of my own projects, if I'm involved with my podcast, making an episode, I'm going to hyper focus on that and not get the other work done. So people who hyper focus is good, but it's only good when you hyper focus on getting something done, your schoolwork, your work projects, because you can't really hard to pull yourself away because your brain wants to be there because that project is stimulating. And I don't know what else you would like me to. Is there anything else you want me to talk about on this, Gabrielle?
Well, let's see. So far you're doing a good job. I just want to put out a couple comments. Unfortunately, I can't put these on the screen, but um, it says I think I have a focus issue, so your words are reaching out to people. Um, Another comment: glad you addressing this. People recognize recognize they have it. I think she means they may not recognize that they have it. So I just wanted to put that out there that your words are reaching people. Just can't put it on the screen right now. All right. So, um, so um, it sounds like you found out by accident. You probably thought what you're going through is normal, or maybe you didn't want to face it, and then your son has the same symptoms, and you go to get him evaluated, and you listen to the questions that the doctor's asking him, and you're answering it in your own head, and then you realize, oh wait, I have the same thing. So what tell me about that experience. What was that like for you?
Well, it was interesting because I'm sitting there in the psychiatrist's office with him, and they're doing that test, and I had a feeling that, probably had a little ADHD, but as he's answering those questions, and of course I'm nosy, so I'm just gonna, like, read over his shoulder, see what the questions are. But it was interesting when I answered yes to all of the questions, but I didn't know at first I was answering yes to ADHD. I was like, "Okay, well, what is it?" And then he scored my son. He's like, "Oh, well, there's a very good chance that you have ADHD." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I answered yes to all those questions." So that was like my own validation because I knew that, I probably had ADHD, and I wasn't really going to pursue that, but it was just interesting to see that, like son, like mother, that, was surprising, but it was also a good thing because when I can't say what's wrong with you because ADHD is not something that's wrong with you. We're just different. But I think that just knowing what it could possibly be is really a big part of, living with it.
Mm. So can I ask what happened that made you get your son evaluated? What was the catalyst?
He felt like he couldn't focus and he felt like something was off. And when he was younger, he didn't know either when he was in high school, yeah, and through middle school. I mean, I had to fight. We fought and not fought like angry fought, but we fought a lot like in school because he didn't want to go to school. He didn't want to do this, didn't want to do that. And he just was, I think when he went to college and he was still struggling and he's like, well, something's wrong. And, let me see if let's just take ADHD first and maybe see, maybe he had some other issues like anxiety. So the psychiatrist was going to evaluate all of that to see what he could do just to feel happier and, inside and feel more productive and feel more confident about himself.
So it was your son that um wanted to get himself checked out.
Yeah. And he was adult by then. He went to community college. And he was doing work for me, which actually was because I run a digital marketing agency, we also do websites, and so over the years, he's gotten better and better, and I've hired him now, but until he actually when he got on medication, although this I'm going to a little aside now, and it's like flipping a switch. It was to a point where I almost lost a client because he wasn't getting the work done, But now that he's been diagnosed and he is on medication, he's so much happier and he's getting the work done. And he just feels this sense of calm because he can focus now.
Hmm. Okay, so that's inspiring. The fact
Yeah.
that he was in college and he was just like, I'm really having a hard time. This is not normal.
Yeah, and he because in high school, they don't know what's normal. We don't know what's normal. He was my first kid, and he didn't understand. But when he got to college, he realized that he just wasn't focusing like the other kids, and he was frustrated. And he dropped out of college, and he was working, but he just couldn't focus. It's just been a huge change for him, and he wanted the change. He wants to feel better and do better.
Hmm. All right. So you saw what he wanted, and so you went with him to the. It sounds like you went to a psychiatrist.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We went to a psychiatrist to make sure and diagnose some other things because you never know. There are other symptoms of things that, present similar, some similar symptoms. So you want to kind of diagnose and make sure exactly what it is. So yeah, I went with him because I wanted to give him some support too, because it's scary, when you're younger, go to psychiatrist. Scary for all of us.
I imagine so. So take me to that moment when you saw when he got the official diagnosis. What was going through your mind? What were you feeling?
But for him,
For him, yeah.
well, he didn't act on it at that point a few years ago. They just said, "Well, you might, but and they didn't put him on medication. They didn't give him any tools. It wasn't, they just put him on other medication for anxiety. But finally this year, he went to a different psychiatrist. He went to a psychiatrist again, I should say. This was like 3 years later, maybe 4 years later. And they did talk and he did put him on medication. And, it's completely up to him. He doesn't have to be on medication, but for him, the change and focus is so dramatic that it's important for him. And he's, to do that because I can manage with tools, but he's just has so much more, more of it, more ADHD. So he really needs the medication to focus.
Hmm. So let's talk about that a bit more. You talked a lot about the tools that you've used. So you use these tools because you had like an intuition, so to
Yeah.
speak, about your the lack of ability,
Right.
your the difficulty to focus, I should say.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So when you say you had a hard time focusing, what do you mean? What does that look like?
When I work when I work on a project, let's just say the project would realistically take 3 hours. It takes me like 6 hours because I'm doing 3 hours of work and 3 hours of doing everything else in between. So when I was a little bit younger, even 3 or 4 or 5 years younger, I could work really, really long days. I run my own business, and sometimes for deadlines, I've worked, 36 hours straight. The older I get, the harder it is for me to do that. And that's when I finally realized that something was wrong because I cannot continue to work those kind of hours as I'm getting older. And why would I want to spend like dragging out a project, not billable? I mean, I only bill the client for the 3 hours, but I realized it was taking me too long to do things because I'm looking at Facebook, I'm looking at Twitter, I'm off on Instagram. Then I got to do the laundry and I have to pet the cats. And so my work day was really long, but only a small period of that time was billable hours because I could not focus and get the work done because also I didn't want to. If it was something that I found boring, I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Hmm. You almost sound like me.
I don't want to do it.
so what? So so how big were was this task? Was it like something small? Was it a large one? How Give me a sense of how much work was there to do.
Well, it's all the tasks, and even if it's something small, if I don't wanna do it, I'm gonna push it out to the very end, or I'm gonna do it, like, in 3 days when I could have really realistic, it would have taken me 20 minutes, because if we don't wanna do something, we're not gonna do it until it absolutely has to be done, And that's where I finally figured out why deadlines would force me to get things done, because it increases your stress level, increases your dopamine level, and then you can focus a little bit. So that's why I pulled all-nighters, because I do other things during the day and then I work all night to get the project done, because now I have a physical deadline. So it doesn't matter how big the project is. If it's something I'm not 100% interested in doing, it's going to take me longer to do it. It doesn't matter what it is. If I'm interested in it, I'm going to do it right away and I'm going to get it done. you know.
And I imagine having your own business, doing like administrative work, for example, there are things that you have to do for your business that are just boring and mundane and you don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, proposals and invoices, and then I have to manage projects and update the project board, and just make sure people have paid, and gather the information. Like, I like doing the creative part, so I can, design and all the other stuff, but I have to get pricing for printing, and I need to, figure out what pieces are gonna go, and then search engine optimization is very, it's a lot of left brain type thing, so then I kinda push that off a little bit, because anything that's, there is a lot of things that we have to do that is not paid just to run a business.
Hmm. So, so when it comes to deadlines, does it help you if other people give you those deadlines, or do you give yourself a deadline and that helps?
Yeah, other other people have to give me the deadline, or I have to tell a client, "This will be done on Monday," because then I know I'm gonna be working the weekend, or I'm gonna be working all day Sunday. If I give myself a deadline, it means nothing. The deadline actually has to be a hard a hard stop.
Hmm. So you need like an outside influence,
Right.
something like that. Okay. So there's a little bit more comments. Just wanted to share. Someone else said that's so me. So, all right, awesome. All right, so let's talk about school, right? So I hear you saying these things, and it makes me wonder. Well, how are you in school? So, what was school like for you?
S School was hard. I It was mostly boring, because they go, school goes slow, it goes a certain pace, you learn the same things every year, just maybe a little bit more, and it's not designed for people with different learning styles, and those of us with ADHD, really, I think things should be faster, more interesting, and just not go over the same things over and over again. "Okay, we got it, let's move on." And so I completely, like, just didn't even focus, didn't concentrate. When I sat myself, for example, I accidentally got put in an advanced German class. And then only thing I'd taken before was colloquial German. So I my very first grade was actually the teacher wrote crap on my essay. So that that would tell you where I'm at. But then somehow that crap grade made me focus, and I ended up finishing with a B. But other than that, because I wasn't that, once I found that what part of the German language I wanted to focus on, and what made it more exciting, like I was gonna learn this, I'm gonna learn that, then I was more with it and I could focus. But math, if I really wanted to, I could, like, learn something really quick and then do it, and then, pass the test. But I just couldn't sit there and focus, because it was so boring, and I could not, it just went right over my head. And it wasn't that I wasn't smart, I just wasn't interested.
The
Which
teacher really wrote the word crap on your essay?
crap was my grade. But I was 17, so I probably deserved the crap. That was my in Norwegian, he wrote crap.
Well, that sound like it motivated you.
It did. Usually that kind of doesn't motivate me, but I'm like, "No, darn it, I'm good with languages. I'm not gonna get a crap grade."
So that was high school, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's go back even earlier. Tell me about middle school.
Well, I went to school in Norway, so it's a little bit different. You go to school until you're 13, I think, or 12, and then you go to a different school. So then it's like middle school and high school are combined in a way. And then the last year of high school is kind of like combined with college. So you actually graduate at like 16 in Norway. So it was the same. I just wasn't interested. I was really good with writing projects and anything or essays, except for German essays. Essays were fun because I or creative writing, I could do that. But I just struggled all the time, and I didn't have any support at home, and there was nobody really to encourage me, help me. So if I wanted to do well on a test, I would have to study on my own. And because there was no structure and no encouragement, I just didn't do it. Some if I did study, I would get a really good grade, but I just didn't want to because why would I study when I could like, do other things and read? I read a lot of books. But yeah, it was just a struggle through the whole of my school.
Mm. So what kind of grades? Well, how about let me ask you this. Were you the one that, teachers always complained about to your parents?
No, there weren't it's a different way of schooling. Nobody, complained about anything, but I just what I would do is I would, like, daydream through the entire pretty much semester, and then I would, like, cram just before a test because it's a deadline. I would cram just before a test, and I would pass the class. And I got decent grades overall because I would just cram because that's I excel when like I said, when I have a deadline, I excel when I put a lot of pressure when I have a lot of pressure. So I could cram for tests because then I had no choice but to focus and get it done. And I was quiet and I would just look at the board like I was, paying attention. I just kind of learned whatever to pretend like I was paying attention, but I was somewhere else completely. I daydream my way through school completely.
I get it definitely. Um, so so what so were there any teachers that made things interesting for you? Like what what was their teaching style?
Probably similar to what it is here. They just sit around and they talk and they write things on the board and we didn't have there was no audio video or audio visual things, especially back then. If there was like an interesting topic or a period, I found history interesting for some reason. And then you could because then I would learn something and then I could go and read books on it at home. So I kind of immerse myself in different topics through history because history for some reason was fascinating. I mean, we're not talking about like the boring part, but all the things that have happened through time in the world. That was interesting because there is a lot to learn, and I would focus on that. But languages were easy for me, but the other classes, science, snore, and I took biochemistry when I was like in the high school slash college, like in Norway. I took pre med biochemistry and that kind of stuff. And believe it or not, I did well in biochemistry because I was interested in becoming a doctor. So I'm like, okay, I have to learn that. But everything else was just boring because when people drone on and on and on and on, you just can't focus. If they're more animated or if they come up to you or show you something, then you can focus. But people with ADHD, we just can't do that whole lecture on and on and on because we just we can't focus at all.
So it's the teachers that just keep talking and writing on the board. They don't really engage with their students or they don't take breaks, things like that.
Yeah.
That was when you were daydreaming and you were just lost.
Yeah, completely. Because there was nothing interesting. Because they could go on, well, we already covered that like 20 minutes ago. Why are we still talking about it? That was my brain. I would never say that. I was really polite. I just was not interested, but I had to go to school because it was the law. Otherwise, nowadays, like, my son, for his last year of high school, he did the partial, so the hybrid. So he did some classes where he'd just go in and check in, and then he would study at home. And then he did 2 classes on his regular high school campus. And that worked really well for him. And that probably something like that would have worked well for me because I could go through the material quicker than in a regular classroom where they just repeat the same information because you do lose the kids who don't have the ability to focus.
Hmm. So so you see so what do you so then let me ask you, what do you think about the new strategies that we have today for kids? I don't know how much I'm sorry, are you still in Norway? Are you
No,
in
I know. I'm here. I'm in California.
you're in California. All
Yeah.
right. So what do you think about the new ways that we're teaching kids today? Now we have all these smart boards and there's we have the remote learning and there's a lot more it seems like there's a lot more interaction and there's a lot more technology that's involved. So, what do you think about all these new technologies that we have today?
I think it's good to a point. For example, some people and some children are not they don't connect with technology. They don't have an aptitude for technology. They do better with someone talking to them and explaining. Other kids, other people do better studying on their own, like this is the tablet and these are the interactive quizzes and things like that, and they don't need someone talking to them all the time. It's really hard, I think it's really hard to cover all the different learning styles. I prefer to read, so if I watch, like, a few months ago, I took a 3-day le not a lecture, but a 3-day, what do you call it? A retreat thing, and it was like and they went on and on, lots of talking, lots of talking. Well, you're gonna lose me because I learned through reading, maybe because, I was nearsighted and I didn't have glasses, and so I have focus, but I need to read. So some people need to read. Some people do better when they watch videos or do interactive games. I think it would be good to try to reach more learning styles, but how can teachers do that when there's so many different learning styles in one classroom? I think that would be hard, but finding a mix that works for everybody or maybe options where maybe you prefer to read a book, you prefer to watch a video on the subject.
Right, more variety.
Yeah. And that meets your learning style because I'm not when I listen to lectures, I can't retain it. When I read it, I can retain it. Some people are the opposite. They can't retain what they read, but they can retain more when they hear it or when they see it. So I think giving people the same material in different ways, you want to listen to it and you can read this book and video, but I don't see that that's really possible to present material in like 3 different ways for people. I think that will be hard, but maybe I think we're going in a much better direction than when I was in school.
Hmm. And then you were in Norway, so
Yeah.
I would imagine, it was a different school system, and I imagine that as well. So I just want to make sure we get this in. So let's talk about your tools more. Just want to make sure we get this in. So you talked a lot about a Pomodoro timer. What is that?
Well, Pomodoro, that's based on the Pomodoro sprint methods. I almost feel like I want to say Pomodoro like tomatoes, but it's not. So what that is it's 25 minutes of work and then you take a break. I use online, there's a website called egg.timer, I think it is, or egg timer or something like that. It's free. You set it for 25 minutes. Sometimes I set it for 55 minutes because I find for me that 25 minutes is a little too short for me to get into something, get back out again. But you set a timer or use Pomodoro timers, which they have. You can even do it on your phone, and you set it for 25 minutes. And in those 25 minutes, you are doing the one thing that you set out to do. If you're going, let's just say you're going to get ready for your taxes, 25 minutes, you're going to sit and go over and find everything you need for your taxes. You're not going to, go make tea and go take out the trash and go look on Facebook. And that's what I do with my time for my projects. Now I like 25 minutes or 55 minutes. I'm just going to do this. And I feel myself reaching like for Facebook. I'm like, no, we're not doing Facebook. And when you're more aware, that really helps you become more aware of how many times I stop what I'm doing to do something else. It really helps you learn exactly what you're doing and then how to pull back on the things that you're not supposed to be doing during that time period.
So you're giving yourself that pressure.
Right. It really does help.
All right, I was looking it up online. Let me see the egg timer we're talking about. So I'm gonna share this, pull this up and see. It's something like that.
Yeah, and so you put in 25 minutes or 55 minutes, you press start. Now this one happens to have a really obnoxious buzzer at the end. So you just put in 25 minutes. So that's 25, okay, seconds, 25 minutes,
Oh, I
whatever
did
you
seconds. Wait. How do I go back? Okay.
and then
25.
but I wonder how you make it a
I see
minute. Oh,
minutes.
yeah, yeah, so do
Do I
that.
type in the word minute?
Well, just I don't haven't used other 4
Okay.
minutes. Okay. Well,
All
yes.
right. Well, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't I'm like, "Oh, I can't see." It might be like there last 5 minutes. So we
Five
just
minutes.
put in the 25. I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've used that one because I've okay,
There
there
it is.
you
All
go.
right. We type in the word minute. Okay. We got it.
And then you can make it, but it's good because it really helps you organize your day more because I'm not organized. I like to do many things. So it really helps you focus, and it's free.
Okay, there we go. Just wanted to share that technique there. All right. Let's go back. All right. Back to me now. All right. So that's the timer, that's one. You also mentioned like you use a lot of planners and notebooks.
Yeah, I do, my entire life, I've had planners and notebooks, and I do it for, like, 2 days, and then I stop. So, now what I'm really trying to do is I made a custom planner. There's a couple of different websites where you can make a custom planner, and you can put stuff in there the way that you want it to be because regular planners don't work for me. So, I can create my own sections with notes and everything like that, and then that has helped me more than the standard planner. I always wanted to be organized, I just never was, and now I know why.
Hmm. Do you want to tell me the website real quick? Maybe I could pull it up.
There's 2 of them. One of them is Agendio, Agendio. That's where I got the planner, 2 planner the planner go. Last time I got a different planner, but I think I like Agendio better now.
Okay. I have this website, so let me just share the screen. Okay. Customizable planners. So this one,
Yeah.
that's
They
backward.
they
Okay.
are a little pricey, but, it's worth it. You can customize the sections, so not just the day you can put I don't like the ones that have times all day. I'm not gonna plan out every hour of my day. Not gonna happen. So you can make I put like a brain dump section, so I can put brain dump, I have note sections.
Okay.
You can create your own, you can change the text. You can
Okay.
you can even have pages that have those little dots for bullet journaling. You can even do that.
Oh, okay.
Now the other one was plum something or other, and that's one I got last time, but it was way too big, and I had to have a bunch of pages taken out. Agendia was sleeker, but, and you can do your own, and that's what's really cool is that you can just customize whatever and however it works for you because everybody's different.
Hmm, awesome. All right. All right. So we are starting to wind down. So do you have any words of wisdom you'd like to share? Any final words of advice you'd like to impart to our viewers?
I think that we should look at if we have ADHD, we should look at it more as something positive and more of like I call it my superpower because we have a diverse excuse me, we have diverse interests, we have like ability to learn faster. Now I'm going to cough, of course, now that we're at the end. Hold on. My throat gets dry.
Take your
So,
time.
wow, I did this last time we talked. I started coughing. And just, think of like, try to find the good parts in it. I'm not crying. I'm just describing. "Oh, I'm trying to find the good parts. Try to find the good parts because and try to find out what works for you. If you work well with deadlines, make sure you get those deadlines set and then find the tools that work for you. And just don't beat yourself up if you can't fit into society the way that, excuse me, society wants you to fit in because you play by your own rules.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Excuse
All
me.
right, cough it up, girl. Cough it
I'm
up.
gonna
All
cry. I'm gonna cry now.
right. All right, you guys. Yes, I will tell myself. Okay, wait, I just want to share this last comment. Sorry to leave, but I walk away with I will time myself
Yay.
as an assistant to ADHD. Awesome. So you inspired um
Yay.
you inspired someone today. All right. All right. So let's get to your promo. So I'm going to pull up your banner. So, you guys, Helen's information is scrolling below on the screen. She is on social media, so definitely follow her. You can find her personal page as well as her business page on Facebook. The information is scrolling below on the screen. And if you would like to learn more about her business, she has a website. It is walkingandtalking.show, right? I said Facebook, and you're also on Instagram as well. Can you talk about your business? A
Well, I
little bit?
run a I run a business. I run a digital marketing agency, but I don't have a website or anything because I work by referral only. So the I do have the walking podcast, and what's so great about it's a coach walk podcast where and actually I should talk about ADHD on the podcast. It gives people like tools and just helps them feel more motivated, and you just, to be gentler and kinder to themselves. And so it's like, but coaching people to walk, because everybody needs to walk to clear their minds, and it really does help you focus. So it's not like any walking for weight loss or anything like that. It's walking to help you get your steps in throughout the day, to help you focus, to relax you. I even have one episode that's a walking meditation. So it's just to help people out, and to because everything's so busy and stressful, and people don't take the time just to get out in some fresh air. So that's why I made that podcast.
So this website is to your podcast.
Yeah, I don't I create websites, but I don't have a website. Because I don't need one. We're all gonna be making one, but it's just I'm so picky with my own stuff too, and all of my work is referrals, so it's like, do I want a website? I don't know.
Okay, well, all right, so there you go. So that web link there is to her podcast,
Yes.
right? Which I encourage my viewers to listen to. And you can find her on social media. Check her out on Facebook and Instagram. I encourage you guys to follow her and to reach out to her to learn more about her services. And I guess it sounds like you help people exercise
Yeah,
or
I
get
yeah, I just get them motivated to do things. I used to be a personal trainer and a group X instructor, but I'm not doing that anymore, but I'm helping people just get motivated, and I do some, like, mindset coaching around that because it is really hard, and just to just try to focus and just make people stronger inside and out, because when you do things with your body that you didn't think you could do, like, suddenly you could do push-ups and you couldn't. It's just so empowering and freeing, and I love to help people and just live better lives that are just, like, more calm and happy.
There you go. There you have it. So to the viewers watching, if you need something like that, definitely reach out to Helen. Her information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen, and it will also be in the description for those of you watching this on YouTube. All right, Helen, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you telling your story.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to place you backstage now. And you guys, let me just do that. It is just you and I. So let me get up my banner here. All right. And we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. Whatever platform that you are watching this episode right now, whether that is Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, maybe Instagram, wherever you're watching this, please check out our video library for more videos and clips. And don't forget to follow us. And while you're at it, let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. And as a reminder, this web series is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about our company, if you would like to learn about our services, our workshops, this web series, if you're looking for a tutor for your child or even for yourself, please check out our website. All the information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen, but I will say our website here. It is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. And I also encourage you to sign up for our email list and our texting list. That information is also scrolling at the bottom of your screen. And I encourage you to join those lists because you will learn more about our promotions, our discounts, special events. You will hear about all that before anybody else. So I encourage you to sign up for our email list and texting list. That information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen again, and it will also be provided to you in the description for those of you who are watching this on Facebook. And I'm just going to share this final message before we close.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Note: we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
Awesome. And I just want to make this quick note before I close this episode. If you or anyone in your family wants to get evaluated for any learning disabilities, or you have a suspicion that you may have it, or after listening to this episode, some of these things resonated with you, some of these things definitely resonated with me, I encourage you to talk to a doctor about uh, these symptoms. It'd be better if you went to a neuropsychologist or a psychiatrist if you're curious about medication. But I encourage you to talk to your doctor and to have yourself evaluated if any of what we said has resonated with you today, or you see the same symptoms in your child. So there's no shame in having a second opinion from a doctor and getting that diagnosis. Um, so I just wanted to share that little PSA. So once again, if any of what we talked about resonated with you today, or you see the same things in your child, I encourage you to go to a doctor and have yourself or your child evaluated. You can go to a general doctor, although I've heard it may be better to go to a neuropsychologist or a psychiatrist if you're curious about medication. But whatever doctor, I encourage, or a psychologist, I'll put that out there as well. But I encourage you to have yourself evaluated and checked out, or your child. That's it for my PSA. And that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. And now I am signing off.